before, a lot of marketers, our ability to succeed depends on our choices of who we work with, because we don't control a lot of things that we get held accountable for.
Having a culture in the organization to go, let's focus on this part of the market is hard to do because that means sacrificing all these other things. People pleasers tend to have a higher resilience to putting up with crap.
You talked about how you wanted to build Starbucks and they wanted to run a local cafe. Was the equivalence you put in that situation?
Like the best content is the ones that you put yourself so deeply into the customer's mind and you're like, what is the stuff that I would desperately want to read today? What's the things I really want to know about? And you can't think like that if you're half in it. As I said, if you're being disrespected, it's not a good fit, it's a toxic culture, then of course leave. But just be very conscious, like how much of that is my own perception as well.
Hello and welcome to Season 3 of the Push Podcast. My name's Jack Ferguson, an experienced brand strategist with a science background. I've worked in marketing for 15 years, have held numerous internal senior roles spanning national and international brands, and now I work as a consultant. In my career, I've worked across 25 industries and helped increase client and employer revenue by over $40 million. I will be your host. This season of the podcast is essential listening for marketers looking to better sell their strategies to stakeholders. I'll host senior marketers who will share stories, analogies, and mental models that help explain complex concepts to non-marketers, get client buy-in, and keep internal teams engaged. Whether you're in-house, agency side, or a consultant, I aim to equip senior marketers like you with tools to speak up, lead with confidence, and persuade others of your strategy's effectiveness. Thanks for being here, and don't forget to subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 24 of the podcast. In this episode, we are talking about breakups. Not romantic breakups, but employer-employee breakups or client-contractor breakups. The key question we are looking at today is, when should marketers leave an employer or client? For this discussion, I'm joined by product marketing specialist Alex Urquhart. Specifically, we discuss the importance of leaving a job at the right time, personal experiences of staying in the wrong job for too long. Both Alex and I have done this. What are the signs that it's time to leave? Tribalism in the workplace, the importance of leadership in shaping company culture and what you can do about it when working under it, and the catch-22 of keeping professional distance from clients and employers versus caring enough to be able to do a great job as a marketer. If you want to find myself or Alex online, you can find links to our online presence in the description of this episode on whatever platform you're listening on. Let's get started. Alex Urquhart, hello.
Hello, Jack.
Mr. Urquhart, let's talk about some stuff.
Let's do it. What are we talking about today?
We're talking about when a marketer should leave an employer or a client.
Yep.
It's a difficult decision a lot of the time, I think.
When to break up.
When to break up. You're in this together. You love each other, of course, and it's a tough time. It's a tough time. You're like, should I go now? Should I not? But I think it is very important to leave at the right time before it gets too late, because take it from someone actually who's never left at the right time or rarely has. So as we've talked about on the podcast before, a lot of marketers, our ability to succeed depends on our choices of who we work with, because we don't control a lot of things that we get held accountable for. And a lot of the outcomes we get held accountable for. So that means we need to get into the right situation in the first place more often. But what happens if we end up in the wrong situation, which I have been in many times before? Don't worry about that. And again, I cannot remember a time where I have left at the right time. So what usually happens with me is if I do stay too long, it kind of gets to a really tense stage. Everyone's annoyed with each other. And, it doesn't end well, which isn't good either, because then you don't have a referral and you don't. It's just a shitty feeling, really. And you did a lot of work, you really tried, but there's just the alignment's not there. And honestly, probably never was, but it's really sticking out like So
and do you think, so just on that too, what do you see as the cracks happening? Because you said like when it goes from your feelings, it's all right, probably wasn't. I suppose same as a relationship, I guess. But goes from being like, no, right, then it's like glaringly obvious. Like, what are the cracks that you see?
It is. They sometimes boil the frog a little bit, I think. But when I'm feeling, not listened to is one. when my heart's not in it anymore and I'm just doing work I don't really believe in, that I don't think is going to contribute to any meaningful outcome, that's always bad. If you start not getting included in things, not getting consulted about things, that's a red flag in my mind. But it's a general feeling of just this is not where I fit. So, and that's where I think a lot about tribalism these days, and about how if it's not your tribe, it never will be. And you can't change other people. People change at a very slow rate generally. Like they're not going to become the person you perhaps want them to be, or the company and organization that you want it to be overnight. It can grow, it can improve, but I wouldn't be betting the farm on large changes, which is what I've historically done. So I can speak to that side of it. And I'll give you a good example with someone I spoke to the other night about. There was a B2B company. They were in the services space. I was with them for a year or two doing consulting work. Really cared, like really liked a lot of the people, where it was going, and I had a vision for it. Like as the marketing consultant, I go, this is where I see the market being. This is where I think you should go. This is what I think you should do. Long story short, I pitched for equity in that company and was going to do all these things, and I was going to become part of it. But there's a few contingencies there where direction and whatnot. And I put a couple of months into this presentation for this company, and it took me about 3 hours to show them all my ideas and everything, which in hindsight, maybe that's a bit long. But anyway, it was a lot of work. I thought about it very deeply, and I was very excited. Like I thought, oh, great. I really think I can make this happen and push this in the right direction. But part of that is focusing and only having one market that you go after with a few offers maybe, or one offer that you serve really well. And sometimes people aren't open to that. But the thing is, if your business isn't built to serve, you can't build your business to serve like 4 or 5 distinctly different segments, especially if you're small. So this is like, let's say a $2 million company. You can't be really good for, say, 5 segments. You've got to be really good for maybe 1 at that stage. And then you can get to a stage where, okay, maybe we can branch out into other segments and stuff. Not then. And that was my advice. And I said, let's just chase this one really, really solidly. But it's kind of a little bit boring for some people. You know, it's not that interesting, but it's effective. You know, this is the direction I wanted to go and do that really well. And so that ended badly at the time because I felt disrespected when I presented this and put all this effort into it. And yeah, it was like poking holes unnecessarily in just weird things. And it's like, oh, okay, it just feels like they're trying to tank the deal. This doesn't feel genuine, like a genuine criticism. And look, I'm happy to take genuine criticisms. And yes, that's great. Like pick holes in it. But if it's this little fiddly stuff, who cares, you know? And it just was a bit like, something's off here. So anyway, that ended badly at the time. I've since reconnected with those people and we get along great now. But they've said to me now, 5-ish years later, you were right.
Interesting.
But it took them 5 years to do the things they had to do and try all the experiments and what I consider experiments. And then they're like, okay.
And not mean to sound arrogant or anything, but I think that's very humble of them to do that. I think I'm just getting older, but I'm digging there when someone goes like, I'm sorry about that. I was wrong. You were right. That's a rare thing in 2024. And like to the point to exactly what you're saying, it's not about trying to get one up. Like you both trying to find what works. And there's equal likelihood you could be wrong. They could be wrong. But yeah, that's cool to come back. Your hypothesis, or at least your direction, was right. Yeah.
And for them to say that, and I agree. Like it's a big thing to say because a lot of people won't say it. It also is my expertise. So I'm not saying this as if I'm some brilliant person. I'm not curing cancer, but this is what I'm good at.
This is what you do.
Yeah. It's not that big of a surprise that I got it right either. So, but some people just aren't ready for it. In that instance, I'm trying to demonstrate how long it took for that to be accepted, and they had to experience things that I can't make them experience things.
Yes,
you know,
correct.
To feel the pain of going the other direction. Yeah,
and this is the thing we were saying too. With like having the pain of going through that stuff is sometimes one of the best things in the world. And it sounds awful, but I talked with the other guy who's a consultant as well, and we say that some of the best founders to work with are the ones that have been burnt the most. Because, and not trying to put them down or anything, but it's just saying like you've gone in, you've actually battled, you've gone on the front line of the battlefield, and you're like, holy shit, like this is difficult, or I tried all these things, it didn't work, and then you come back, you're like, okay, that makes sense, and this thing's exactly what you just said. Then having a culture in the organization to go, let's focus on this part of the market is hard to do because that means sacrificing all these other things. But until you go through the battle hardened crap and you go, oh yeah, we tried to chase 50 things, we burnt out, 10 people left, and we're now worse off. Then you go, let's focus on one thing. And it's not until you go through that you don't empathize with it enough. So that's kind of cool. And like you said, that change, well, as you said, 5 years.
Yeah.
Like
that's how long it took.
People change, but
slowly. Very, very slowly.
You're better off finding people that are already out there.
Yeah. And again, I stayed too long in that situation. Every other situation, pretty much the same. Stayed too long. It's an awful feeling on the way out.
And it's also when you leave when it's too long, it can end badly. Like you sort of want to leave every employment opportunity with a positive way of doing it. And I remember saying this to you too. It's like, I think something about marketers is that your job is half of it is just empathy. Yeah. You're trying to go, what do these people want? How can I give that to them? Is marketing in one sentence. Is like, usually they're people pleasers because people pleasers have good empathy. And that's why I think the marketing, what do you call it, spectrum, I think it's like 70% women because you usually have more emotional intelligence. And it's like, that drives a lot of it. But I think people who are people pleasers tend to have a higher resilience to putting up with crap. You know, I work with people who are like, this isn't right, it's not working, I'm out of there. Where it's like people who are more empathetic are like, oh, let's see it from their side, or hang on, you know, I could be wrong. And it's like this, you prolong this painful thing instead of being like, this is not working, it doesn't feel right. In saying that, if you have one bad day and quit, that's yeah. But to your point, you give it some time. I always give it the 6-month rule. If you feel like crap and you feel the same way after 6 months, leave. And that's a hard, like, if that's how it feels, then get out.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. But I know that I'm interested because you have you've left at the right time before.
Right.
Tell me about that.
I had one with, and still friends with them now. They're just such a good organization, but it was with one, and I've spoken about it a bit in other episodes. Like they're a non-profit and they did a technical tech side of the business, which I was involved with and love the company. But like my passion and my drive is everything is in the tech world and marketing world. And the project that I was on, we took as far as if we could possibly go and basically got to the point where in order for the business to go up that next level, we had to invest into it. And we needed like some more developers, we needed more runway, needed more time. We got the product market fit. It was just engineering the product behind that. And rightfully so, the business was like, hey, this is not our core. This is not what we do. So we're not willing to just take this huge risk and all this additional burden on top of us. We're just going to keep it sort of churning along and sort of bubbling of where it sits, which is totally fine. But then I was sort of went to them and said, hey, listen, like, that's cool. And if anything, that's probably my advice to you as well. It's either double down or leave it. And I said, well, my career and what I want to do with my life, it's probably more of the double downing phase. Like I want to be involved with trying to push growth and trying to get things up and running rather than just sort of letting things move along. And they were like, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Like it was very clear, like we're going this way, you're going that way. And it was like, love this company, love working with you guys, but I'm going to call it a day. Yeah, and It was like, they were so supportive. They were like, we'll give you referrals and stuff like that. And it made sense, I think, because we both knew, ironically, what we wanted, which is rare. Because I think, especially with marketing world, when people hire marketers or work with them, they're like, we want growth. Marketers do growth. Therefore, why aren't you doing growth? And you're like, well, this is not for me. And they're like, what, you don't like doing growth? And you're like, that's not it at all. You're chasing rainbows and I'm trying to do this thing. Anyway, so I think it does matter when you leave at the right time. But I do agree, like staying, I think it's probably like the 2 year. Now it's like on average, people stay for 2 years in the companies and then they sort of transition on. And I think that's a mixture between that's long enough to see all the cracks.
If you can't see them by then,
usually you see them all by the first year, but they don't really start hurting you until another 12 months later that you're like, this is never going to change, I'm angry, I'm frustrated. But when you rock up to every new company, it's like stars in your eyes and everything's perfect and great and fun, but as you say, it was always there. And I think I always choose a good culture over a good product. Like a good product, stuff like that, but a good culture and a good leadership is just worth its weight in gold.
Oh, yeah. Because that will build a good product anyway.
Yeah. And like I would happily work on the most boring product on the planet with a good team and a good focus, like any day of the week.
I loved your analogy about, which you haven't said yes on this episode, but you said it off the episode, so I'm going to say it now so the listeners can benefit as well. But you talked about how you wanted to build Starbucks and they wanted to run a local cafe was the equivalence you put in that situation. No, I thought that was a good way of thinking about it. I thought, okay. Do you want to build a Starbucks? Well, if the organization doesn't want to, not much you can do about it.
Yeah, that's right. And everything will come downstream from that. Like your decision making, your hiring, it's going to be like, hey, our next quarter is not going to be how can we double the business and your higher risk appetite. It's going to be no. How do we like keep the doors open and make sure the next 3 guys keep coming back and
live to fight another day.
You know, it's like, that's not what I want to do. And I remember hearing this a while ago. It was like these investors say they judge the startup more on the founder than they do on the product. I'm thinking that's ridiculous. Like at the end of the day, it's a product in the market. And then having like 200 startups that companies now work with. And I'm like, that's so true. You can have the best product in the world with poor leadership and non-motivated or that has a toxic culture, it's like, unless you're selling, and I use this a lot, like face masks during COVID, which you could be a lemonade stand at the front of your yard and you'd probably make money. It's so easy to let it fall apart because so much of what we know, like most of the business is just optimizing, it's just sort of iterating on it. And then if you come out and you go, this is what I think, everyone go do it. But if you have a leader at the front of the company and, testing and backing it up and joining sales calls and figuring this out and aligning the company, you will eventually succeed. If you have a good founder and a good leadership team, you will eventually succeed. And I think knowing that too, like I said too, I now go, if I look at other companies, helping another company hire, I go on to look at other PDs and what other people are hiring for to check what the market is. I go on Glassdoor, and I can tell you now, there's some I've read the product, I've read the company, this is great, I've seen some posts that they've done, and then I go on Glassdoor and it's like negative review after negative review, and I go, well, no, cross that one out.
Yeah.
Like people are going from that company to ours, and I go, not going to touch that.
Yep.
And it's such a shame that's like, yeah, there's just so low emphasis on it now. Hopefully younger generations are now emphasizing that.
But we've both been in situations too where you start caring about the business more than the leader.
Yes, which is the number one reason to get out.
Yes, which is then that's Alex's point, by the way. I'm stealing it. But
go for it.
That is very true. And sometimes because the business can be set up in a way that the directors or whatever are making good money. But so they don't necessarily have an incentive to grow the business because I'm making good money at this size. But that doesn't suit me though. So that's when you've got to get out too, because I've been way too invested all the time. I really struggle with that boundary of not getting too involved and not caring too much.
But good marketing, I think this is the catch-22, because good marketing needs that.
Yeah, because we have to care.
You have to be deeply involved. Like if you think about, you write content for, say, any sort of company, in my opinion, if you're writing whatever it is, video, blog, whatever, you're writing content. Like the best content is the ones that you put yourself so deeply into the customer's mind, and you're like, what is the stuff that I would desperately want to read today? What's the things I really want to know about? And you can't think like that if you're half in it.
Yeah.
And I have this thing where I genuinely believe, apart from like poor culture and those sorts of things, I feel it's impossible to be with a product mind and a consumer mind. And I think they're two sides of the same coin. But I feel like, it's that odd saying, you can't feel angry and hopeful at the same time. Like you can feel like have a laugh, but then feel like a bit daunted. Like there's some emotions that like fix together.
Yeah.
But like this, like you just cannot feel the two. And I've experienced this many times that like, when you go like customer research to fix the product, and good marketers and people get so focused on the customer, because that's essentially what you're doing.
Yeah.
But then the managers and the people who own the company, they get so focused on the business.
Yes.
And they go like, we need more money. We want to scale. We want to go into new, like, none of that matters unless you do this. And like you look at any successful founder, it's the same thing over and over again. They're like, just get obsessed with the customer.
Yep.
You get obsessed with them. And I feel like how toxic culture happens, and I've seen this so many times, good founders and good tribes, like where they're at, start by being obsessed with the customer, which creates this great product, and they service it well, and they get these advocate customers, and they go, right, now we've done that. We're good now. Let's turn this up. And then they just lose sight of what they originally did.
Yes.
And then they go things like, oh, let's do PLG. And you're like, what is that even? Like, why? Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Oh, because you can scale faster. Is that what the customer wants? Is that going to help them? And I think like the fish rots from the head, we say a lot of that. But the sad reality is so much of it depends on the leadership, and so much of it depends on, and to be a founder, I think I've said this to you before, to be a founder is easy. In Australia, you need an ABN number and a website. Congratulations, you're a founder. But to be a good founder, I think, is one of the hardest jobs on the planet. And I'll die on that hill. It is so hard to be a good founder, which means especially in the early days, for many, many years, for zero thanks, for bugger all money, you work probably 10 different positions at once, 7 days a week. You get dragged over the coals, and eventually, hopefully, when the momentum builds, you sort of go sort of from that. But it is so hard, and I think the biggest issue in startup, or at least in a lot of startup world, is that people underestimate the reality of what that takes. So they get in the roles, and so everyone wants to quickly be a dashboard checker. And I don't know if I said this. I think I said this in the previous podcast, but there's always the guy who built Salesforce book called Impossible to Inevitable. And he talks about the different levels, three or four different levels of when the company grows, and the people, the tribes that you hire. And one of them, in the early days, you need entrepreneurs. You need like 4 or 5 hardy, a sales guy who's got no issue jumping on a support call, a support person who's got no issue going to a conference to pitch a product. Like, you need these really versatile people, generalists, that do everything it takes to move the company. Then when you start to scale, you need process-driven people. You need like to hire people. You don't want entrepreneurs because you figured out what works. You need them to follow this thing, fill the product out.
That ain't us.
No, right? Yeah, that's right. Well, that's what I mean. And this is the whole point, right? Because some people, very few, can adapt to each level.
Yeah.
And so it's only like the 1% of the 1% of the 1%, like the Bezos and stuff like that can go from early to extreme. Because as you go up, like having that VP of Microsoft, probably in Microsoft, they're very good.
Yeah.
You're managing 50,000 people and there is a time to check dashboards. When you've got 5 people.
Not much on the dashboard.
No, you don't check the dashboard because guess what? It says what it said an hour ago. Nothing's changing.
So your principal's so low. Same 10 customers.
Yeah. Like
doing the same shit they did last week. Yeah.
I love that. I lost it one day in a sales meeting when someone said, what's closing this quarter? And I just burst out. I was like, the same as last quarter. Nothing's changed. Like, we're not doing anything. Change something. So I don't want any more board reports. I'll just, spoiler alert, I'll write on the back of a napkin. Nothing's changed here.
Yeah.
Like, let's
save you the time.
Like let's go out and do something.
Yes.
And so it goes to like the process-driven people, and then it turns into those dashboard checkers. Because if you're managing 1,000 people across 50,000 customers across 5 different products, you do need dashboards.
Yes. Yeah.
You need quantifiable metric systems to figure out what's going on. And I think there's a massive issue between that. So the tribes I leave, and I see it all the time, dashboard checkers come in too early. Entrepreneurs, some not always, go too late. And this is what they say about that whole 0 to 1. The founder who's crazy enough to take all these risks on, to do all this, million miles an hour, throw things at the wall that get it moving. Once things are moving, that mentality is toxic. You hear it all the time from product people when they go, oh, guess what? The roadmap, it's just whatever the CEO dreamed up last weekend. And it's like, you need them to step back.
That's hard for a lot of people to do, though.
Hugely.
Like it's a very emotional. Yeah. Like, don't know. I'm the parent of my kid.
Correct. And also, if you've sacrificed basically your life for 3 years and all your money and all your time, and then someone goes, get out of the way, you'd go, excuse me. Like, no, this is my thing. I'll do what I want. Again, I've seen many founders do this too. It's fantastic. They can go back and they see that and they go, I'm not the right person for this. I need to go. And I've seen it work. Even they've used it to their advantage, and as they've looked for new parts of the company, they've led that and gone.
That makes a lot of sense.
And like, we're going to try this new product or this new market, and it's like, great. If you want to be that entrepreneur person, go to the other market and do your crazy stuff, and But now this thing's working. Move out of the way. Let's just keep it like bubbling along. So I think that comes back to the tribe, and I think dashboard checkers too early, entrepreneurs too late. It creates, again, from the top down, bad culture. Annoys everyone. Culture is a personality of leadership. So, like, as I said, if I can meet with the founder for an hour, I got a good idea of where that company's going. Not always, because an hour's not a whole lot, but that'll tell me a lot more than any demo will.
You've worked with enough, though, that you'd have a bit of a spidey sense at this stage. All right, you need to make me feel better about myself, because you've talked about how you always leave at the right time. But tell me about a time you stayed too long. And we'll finish on this story.
Well, a couple of times too. Okay, so staying too long was that, when the business went too long, where the whole point was, we hired all these people in, there were dashboard checkers, it just got out of control. They sort of hired too quickly, and it didn't feel good. Probably 6 months before I left, probably 9 months before I left, and I was like, well, ups and downs, we'll see how we go, and bit by bit, I was almost like gaslighting myself. I was like, oh, this is just a little thing. It'll be fine. And then it got worse and worse and worse. And issues I was raising, as I think you said at the beginning of this episode, they were being ignored. And when you get left out of meetings and things get done without you, and then the expectations grow, and then it's almost like this smell of desperation sort of comes into the air, and it's unorganized. And whether it was just me at that time, potentially, but I stayed on, and I fought and I fought and I fought, and I tried to rally the troops. And there's a few people there who tried to rally it and get all going again, but then because it was chaotic around them, that just kept falling apart over and over again. And people kept leaving. I was like, no, like, we're in it for the long haul. Like, we got to do this. It's about the vision. And then it got to the point where I was like, my actions are now redundant. Everything I do, everything I try to do, and everything I want to do is not working. So I was like, I'm losing there. I'm just now getting negative. Like, I mean, I got to a point there where like I'm bringing everybody else down because I'm so frustrated that it's a positive that I need to just get out of here. I got to go. And so,
how selfless of you.
Yeah. I'll take my negativity elsewhere. But
ironically, the day after you leave, you're feeling very positive, right?
Yeah, correct. Oh, huge.
Yeah.
Weight off my shoulders.
Yeah.
But I did that too.
Smiling again.
Yeah. Skipped my step. It was great.
Yeah.
Then I've done that also too with engineering before I got into the tech and marketing world.
Yeah.
And it's the exact same thing. I was like, my first ever full-time job, and you get brainwashed, at least I was in 2012, 2013, that I was like, oh, this is you find a job, right? You stick with the company, you grow through the company, you become professional. And I brainwashed myself, and I reckon, again, 2 years I would have left, and I stayed for 4.5 years. And again, the company was fine, but it was just like, I was just dragging myself over coals. And the only regrets I've ever had in my life is not that I didn't go for things, but not leaving things too early.
That's very common too. That's what people will say to me. Is a lot of people I've heard say, I've never left a job too soon. Yeah. Yeah. And there's a bit of a fear with, you want to replace it first, right? Oh, I don't want to be unemployed. And, fair enough. And you might have expenses. Well, we all have expenses, but you might have responsibilities and all that. I get that. But yeah, every time I have left, it still has created space for something else. So these days I'm like, this feels wrong. I'm going to leave, and just got to trust that something else will come along. Yep. Bit spiritual to finish this off here, but yeah, that's my current philosophy on that. But good fun. I think I hope that helps all you marketers out there know when to leave or when to stay, or just be aware of what we've been through and the decisions we've made, and the good decisions and the bad ones. A lot of bad ones on my behalf, or a lot of indecision on my behalf, should I say. I've
done the same too. I think also with I think a question back to that, right? So I guess if there, for argument's sake, someone's listening and says, well, I'm not sure if that's me or not, what would be your advice to someone who's thinking if they should leave or not?
If it feels wrong, it is.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Just gut feel?
Yeah, first thing that comes to mind. I mean, if you're starting to dread it every day, and if you actually want to have some fulfillment in your career, yeah, a lot of us do. It's not going to change. Like, that's the other thing. Like, and you and I have talked extensively in this episode about how we've tried to change things, but we're bringing a knife to a gunfight, really. Yeah. And just accepting that you're not going to change the culture. You're one cog in a wheel. And yeah, you're probably getting held. If you're unhappy, you're getting held accountable for outcomes that you can't do anything about. And a lot of problems are upstream. You can't do anything about that. If you know all those things, you're not being valued. You can feel it. That's a few of the things I do look for. And just knowing that there is places for you, where you are valued and you are.
It's constructive to where you're at.
Yeah. And it's just right for you and how you think and operate, because we don't all operate the same.
And I think I'll say one on that last one to sign that off. The counterpart to that is, I don't know what it was. It was some motivational speaker a while ago said, like, when you leave, and it was talking about a relationship, but any sort of arrangement, if you leave it, change yourself first before you leave, because you'll bring yourself to the next one. And I remember hearing that whole, like, as I said, if you're being disrespected, it's not a good fit, it's a toxic culture, then of course leave. But just be very conscious, like, how much of that is my own perception as well. Because like, I've done that before where I've had huge expectations of the management team. And I think some people do, right? They're like, they want it to be great culture, high paying, really constructive, a lot of fun, a lot of like all these things together. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. I get all that. But how, like, you may never... There's other options out there, but if you sort of went, hey, it's not my business, I can't control it, I'm going to stick to what I love doing in this thing here, which I have done, and that's changed my whole perception of things. And I'm like, it's not my company. I kept trying to... I treat it as if it was my own because I care about it. Yep. But going, well, it's not mine. I'm just going to focus on doing my little area really, really well. And it's lasted. Ironically, eventually I end up leaving. But it gave me 12 months of bliss as well. Yeah. So that's one thing I'll say.
Yeah, it's a good point that we did talk about, that caring more about the company than others as well.
Yeah.
So maybe that is a good point. Like, maybe you should care less than the executives or the leaders. Yeah. They're getting paid more and they're more responsible. Like, if you're finding yourself above them, maybe that is a problem.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, and I've certainly had to learn how to care a little less,
which is a twist, which is like so ironic, right? Because you want employees who care. I want someone who really gives a crap about this company.
But that's where you've got to get into a place where you want to build a Starbucks and they want to build a Starbucks.
Correct.
Already.
Are you aligned?
And you're not trying to talk them into building a startup.
Correct.
A startup. Starbucks. Startup, Starbucks. They're the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll sign off there.
Awesome,
Thanks for chatting, Alex.
See you next one.
Talk soon. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Push Podcast. Please remember to subscribe, and if you are enjoying the episodes, please leave a review of the podcast on your platform of choice. It really helps to build the podcast credibility and to help others find this type of information.